How's it going, everybody? I'm SHADESATKNIGHT, and welcome to Shades Top 8. I've done a few different favourite villain lists in the past.
Hi, we interrupt the Australian Guy Tells You Something show to bring you something, well, I was about to say completely different, but let's face it, I'm just sort of ripping him off. We're doing a interesting version of a top 8 list, as we're calling it. This is going to be, as the title says, as they always do, me choosing my favorite Big Finish audio drama story for all of the classic Doctors. Now, these can come from any kind of different ranges. There's a good number of different specific ranges from Big Finish Productions, and all the Doctors have showed up in a few different ways. So I'm going to pick my favorite. So it's going to be my favorite for every respective Doctor. I'll do my best to explain why it's my all-in-all favorite. Admittedly, some of these may not be the absolute best. I would definitely say in that capacity, there are some that maybe trump these specific stories just by going by that Doctor. But these are my personal favorites, so enough time wasting. Let's get started. Oh, and don't worry, you can see that Australian guy whatever the hell you want. Maybe, I don't know. Moving on!
And before I go on, please let it be clear that I haven't listened to absolutely everything from Big Finish. They've been around for over 15 years now, and it's kind of tough to get to listen to everything. Not to mention, not every single thing they've done is easily available in general. So, again, these are all from what I actually have listened to, but it's still a fair amount, so I can make a good judgment call, at least on my favorites. So, with that out of the way, now we can move on. For the first Doctor, the plot's fairly simple. The Doctor, along with companions Ian, Barbara, and Vicky, land on Platform 5, a floating city just above the planet Ajabis. They, of course, are convinced that this will finally be the time they go on vacation and don't have to worry about anything evil. Surprise, surprise, something evil happens. This time in the form of basically a sci-fi biker gang, you could basically call them, called the Rocket Men. They are using one of the oldest tropes in sci-fi. Pack. So from there, it's mostly Ian, since this is told from the perspective of the character, as be it for the Companion Chronicles range, to try and fight them off and get out of this as safely as they can without getting anyone hurt. Story. What's also nice is gave more characterization than the show probably would have allowed, but the 60s characters get the best of it. Real indication Ian and Barbara were a couple. They were who work at a school. It maybe gleaned from the show that they they came closer and closer, but they never really said much. They never outright stated anything. I don't know if that was a TV decision thing, or if it was something that they thought the kids wouldn't really care about, or would be too much for them. I don't know. Yes, they were definitely getting closer to we're getting closer and building a relationship out of it. And it's kind of surprising to see, especially in any case, a character like that. Usually in licensed stuff, you're kind of afraid that you can't really touch or do much because you have to, at the end of the day, leave things as they are, or just don't do anything to change anything because the TV show dictates it. Seeing as we're talking about, of the series that take place literally 50 years ago, Moffat and gang really have any interest in what they do. What's really freeing about the audio dramas, and this one in particular, is you get to see them still explore these characters who are, again, were established decades ago and necessarily have what, at least compared to how we would define a character today. Rocket Men proved to be a good success. The following year, it produced a sequel, Return of the Rocket Men. Still with the first Doctor, but with companions slightly changed. If I'm right, it was Steven and Dodo they were with. And they are set to make another appearance, this time in full audio drama format, on the Fourth Doctor Adventures. I believe the title is Requiem of the Rocket Men. That's not coming until next year in March, so I don't know really much about it, but I do love the Rocket Man, and I'm interested in checking it out. For the second Doctor, I'm going to have to go with the Salvation Gambit. Just like Rocket Man, it's a companion chronicle story. Also, it involves a hostage situation. I swear to you, I did not plan this when making this list. But here's the thing. Kind of in some ways similar to how the show ran, Salvation Gambit's a little sillier than the Rocket Men. Sure, the Rocket Men had guys in jetpacks. This story has the Salacians, who are cybernetic shark warriors. I am not at all kidding. Seriously, they're the... What was that TNT ripoff? The surf sharks? Basically, they're humanoid shark robot monsters. And they're here to rob the Galactabank that the Doctor and company are stuck at because they parked in front of it and got the TARDIS booted. And they have no way of paying the fine because this Doctor doesn't like to carry money around. So from there, it's, well, again, a hostage situation, and it's the companions and the Doctor trying to fight their way around it and get out of it. This one, again, is kind of what I meant by I'm not choosing the absolute greatest. There are far better ones and more dramatic ones. For example, Big Finish has done a good number of stories with this recurring storyline of the character of Zoe, for example. But this one is just out-and-out fun, and I listen to it rather frequently. Just like Rocket Man, it's only about an hour long, so you can listen to it and get it out instantly, and it's a lot of fun. Fraser Hines and Annika Wills are having a blast with the tale, and you can't hate them for that. Let me say something very clear. The Companion Chronicles did something very nice. Gave the companions a story to really follow. You know, the chance to be a character instead of being basically a window for the audience. You know, the kind of person who goes, what's that, Doctor? What's this do, Doctor? Who are they, Doctor? And some characters did manage to have some life to them. Others don't. Jo Grant was, I don't know, it's tough. She definitely was not the smartest. Okay, let me rewind. Jo Grant was the second companion of the third Doctor. She was brought in after Liz Shaw left, since the actress felt that she really didn't have much to do. Also, and I'm not sure how true this is, they kind of felt that having another scientist with the Doctor was kind of redundant, since explaining to her all the scientific things happen would just serve no point other than to be really redundant. So they gave someone who wasn't as sciencey smart as Liz. So we have Jo Grant, who filled the whole obligation of asking what was going on. And the thing about the character, and I know it's tough to really tell you what works about the character because she kind of doesn't do much. She's very good at playing the damsel in distress half the time. But the character in the show, and definitely in this one, the many deaths of Jo Grant, shows a compassion. Just a nice fine line of compassion. The premise is very simple. Jo Grant keeps dying. Basically, Groundhog Day, only more British-y? I guess that's a good way to put it. And really, it's kind of difficult to explain this. Okay. There's an episode of Stargate SG-1 where the two most unqualified people to solve the problem they're stuck in, of time constantly repeating itself over and over again, have to figure out how to get out of it. So not only do we have that conundrum, but we do get to see how Jo thinks. And basically, most times she dies, it's to basically sacrifice herself to protect the Doctor. This is definitely more thoughtful than other ones I would definitely put my favorite, but I gotta be honest with you, I just don't go for Companion Chronicle range a whole lot, despite what I've been favoriting. But also, the third Doctor's tough to kind of get into for me. I kind of, while I still enjoy him a lot, I'll definitely say he's my least favorite. I don't know what it is. Part of it might have been the fact that a lot of his stories were just him on Earth dealing with things, which was fine, but I kind of enjoyed Doctor Who for Doctor Who's sake. Do you mind, dog? Anyway, not editing it. It's too funny. But here's the thing. It's a good character moment for Joe. And they even get some good bits for the Third Doctor himself. Even if it is just Katie Manning doing the voice of John Pertwee herself, I still feel a nice character connection between the two, and it was just a pleasure to listen to.
A podcast with Coolio after that same fictional nightclub.
Tom Baker, he is the best. There are some I like more than Tom Baker, admittedly, but I will instantly tell you he's the best on television. Yeah, audio, at least for me, it's kind of a mixed bag of sorts, and for many people it's kind of a mixed bag. Tom Baker, the actor himself, was a long off-limits commodity. He had just no interest in being a part of Big Finish for the longest time, only to finally join up in 2011 and has been a part of it ever since. But of course, while they couldn't use the actor, the Fourth Doctor was a regular in the Companion Chronicles range. And not to say there's any bad ones. There's some good ones, at least from what I've heard. But none of them really, I never go back and listen to them frequently like I would others on this list. And to be perfectly honest, I haven't gotten a lot of his full cast stuff because money, but also I just haven't felt compelled to listen to absolutely everything. With the exception of what we're about to talk about here, the Justice of Jellax. I have no idea if I'm saying that right, and I really don't care because it's a foreign word and is made up. Unites the Fourth Doctor with Jago and Lightfoot, characters who debuted during his era. Jago and Lightfoot themselves have had a long-running, very successful, and highly entertaining spin-off, originally called Jago and Lightfoot, and it's pretty dang good. And the fact that these two are going to be united was something I was looking forward to immensely, so much that I just bought this one the moment it came out, not really listening to the series regularly. And this is just a massive amount of fun. The premise is simple. The Doctor, along with the first incarnation of Romana, come back to Victorian England, meet up with their old buddies Jago and Lightfoot to figure out a strange mystery that's occurring. A strange mass vigilante and his robot sidekick, you now know why I love it from that phrase, are, causing strange vigilante crimes all over the city, and the Doctor has to figure out what's going on. We soon find that the said person doing this is on a revenge ploy and has came across this robot, whose function is, honestly, it's not too unlike how the lantern rings work. Instead of a ring that can create virtually anything your imagination can request, it's a massive robot that crushes things. Potato, potato. Why do I love this one so much? Well, it's just so amusing from beginning to end. And it's, so well packed together. The Fourth Doctor adventures aren't like the other audio stuff for full cast. The main range tends to be to the traditional 4-episode serialized format. With the Fourth Doctor stuff, for the most part, they stay with 2 episodes, though there are cases where 2 stories are where 2 discs are one story but labeled differently. Kind of a weird mix of the modern series 2-parter and, how the whole serialized format of classic Doctor Who actually works. But the cast is on fire. Tom Baker, decades after working with them, works great with Christopher Tom Baker, decades later after working with them on their original appearance, The Talons of Wing Chang, gets along so well with the actors who portray Jago and Lightfoot, and it just had a big smile on my face from beginning to end. If there's anyone you want to try, this one's perfect. You don't need to listen to Jago and Lightfoot at all, as the events are basic. can't do this. Continuity's not that big of a problem. Listening to Talons of Wing Chiang would be good, but you basically get the gist of who they are and their relationship from the opening. Ah! If you have no idea about Jago and Lightfoot, don't worry. This is a pretty good jumping on point, or at least a good place to listen to without worrying about continuity. It's briefly said, but it is basically assumed that this is many years after the events of the Jago and Lightfoot series. So if you're worried about the continuity of that show getting in the way, don't worry. This is far off from there. And you don't even need to see their original TV appearance. While it is one of the best, you still get the gist of who these two characters are, since they are, the big guest stars of the piece. And Tom Baker's great. Also, I'd be remiss to say that this was one of Mary Tamm's final performances. This was actually, this along with all of the second series of the Fourth Doctor adventures, debuted after her death. But she's great in this, and as great in all the other ones I've listened to. Highly recommended. Easily spare parts for the Fifth Doctor. Now, I don't really know how to say this, because if you ever hear about Big Finish, this is one of the ones that's instantly recommended. It is fantastic. It's a prequel to the 10th Planet. Basically, we get to see Mondas before, it hurled back to Earth, and we saw the, while silly-looking, original kind of creepy-looking Cybermen. We basically see the beginnings that led to these people having to change themselves into the horrific cybernetic monsters. And it's just flat-out creepy throughout. Peter Davison gives you the exact thing you should suspect in a situation like this. We need to get out of here, as much as I don't want to. And that's the most interesting about his character. We're dealing with a version of the character who's still kind of getting over Adric's death. Again, sorry for the spoilers. And the fact that he has the opportunity to completely stop them. This is basically, again, Genesis of the Cybermen, where he had the opportunity to destroy them. But he can't do that. As much pain as it's going to cause, he can't make that big change in history because it's too massive. Who knows what could easily happen. Totally imagine the original Cybermen looking creepy as hell in this story. As, well, basically it embraces the whole Borg concept that, again, technically came from the show, but really I think with Star Trek Next Generation, they took the idea of people with cybernetic implants and turned into some hellish, deformed version of their former self. This obviously took notes from the Borg and made it perfect. 3 and 4, as I said, of course, have one problem. There's not a giant amount that does leap to mind, but I was able to pick something. The Sixth Doctor has the exact opposite problem. He has so many good stories, stuff I just listen to as much as I can, so it's really tough to pick. But I'd probably have to go with Jubilee. Jubilee served as the basis for the Series 1 episode Dalek. And, well, it's really different from Dalek. The basic principles there, the Doctor and the Companion find themselves in a strange, we'll say future of Earth, since technically it's the future in Dalek from the time it aired. They find themselves in a strange place with a more or less powerful man. Well, in Jubilee it's more of a ruler, and Dalek it's just some rich guy in a bunker. And they look for all this stuff, get to learn about the world, and then you find out they're holding a Dalek. And while the horrors of the story start to evolve, a strange appreciation of some sort of odd relationship between the companion of both stories and the Dalek start to forge. And that's kind of where the comparisons stop. It's basically the same skeletal structure, only much different meat on the skeleton. Hopefully that makes sense to you. Now, Jubilee is just chilling, exciting. It has some hilarious bits. My favorite thing is the opening, which is a mock trailer to basically it's called Dalek, the Ultimate Adventure, and it's basically an on-point spoof of action movies. No, basically it's a Michael Bay movie, only this isn't 2003, so I don't know. Transformers wouldn't have been out, but I think everyone kind of understood the generic, over-the-top action version of something. And there are moments that make you laugh, but there are moments that hit you in the gut, and there are twists here that are bat crap insane, but amazing at the same time. I highly recommend this. It's not that hard to get. It's available pretty cheap on download now, directly from their website, so go ahead and get it. And see what I see in it. It's just perfect. The Seventh Doctor has the same problem as the Sixth. So many good stories that I had to really whittle down. I could have gone with Gods and Monsters, which was the big culmination of a semi-ongoing story arc that included the return of one of my favorite classic Who villains, Fenric. And there's also Death in the Family, which was a continuation of a small story known as The Word Lord, which again I considered, but let it go fast until it's just one small story. Family takes that character and makes him even more deadly, interesting, and unbelievably compelling. I had to be honest with you, I had to go with the silliest title of them all. Basically, a four-parter, but rather a two-parter that's told in two different ways. Let me explain. You don't have to listen to one in any order. You can listen to... It's not done the traditional way of this is disc 1, this is disc 2. Disc white and disc black. And you can listen to whatever one first. You listen to first, it's an established setting. A strange world that's under some kind of either war or more or less invaded, occupied kind of. And the Seventh Doctor and his companion Mel land on this planet. And soon find out that this wasn't actually the first time, at least for the setting. They were there before. One pivotal moment, change one moment, and then with the change of that moment, the timeline shifts. And when the disc you're listening to ends, we stay in that exact version of that setting, only the story is done differently. And the changes are subtle. Certain characters are entirely different from one timeline to the other, and it's basically serves as one simple thing. Changing history doesn't necessarily give you a good change. Both futures are horrible, and they leave it to you, the audience, to figure out which one is honestly better. And it's not like one... Well, I could probably choose one of the universes. There's really negative effects to both, so you can't say one's better than the other. It's a very wonderfully crafted story, and the whole concept of listening to whatever disc works out smoothly without any problems. Which is a big risk, and I'm happy they took that gamble so early. Well, not too early. I think this was like somewhere in the 40s, so they had, an established audience with the audio dramas, but this was a very high concept idea. And one that I don't think you'd be able to do on television all that well. I feel like things would interfere and all that. Doing it on audio works because you can just put in the disc easy. Well, I guess you could do that, but I don't know. Airing it would be kind of strange. Flip-flop. Anyway, now to our final pick. The Eighth Doctor... 2001, he started on the monthly range, and that went on and off until 2011. Then he shifted over to his own solo series, which began in a similar format to the modern show, where they're more about 45, 50-minute episodes. Sometimes it'd be a two-parter. Halfway through, they stopped doing that, and were like half serialized, where like one disc would be two 20-something minute episodes, which I found strange. I thought the old format worked. And now he's shifted to a different format with the Dark Eye series, which are box sets. So you get 4 episodes that form one whole cohesive story. And I narrowed down my pick for the Eighth Doctor to his solo series. And most importantly, I'd have to give it to Blood of the Daleks, the very first story. Now, Will I say in this range is it the best? No. I was really hard-pressed to pick, of all things, the exact opposite of it in terms of placement. I was thinking of the series finale, which was Lucy Miller to the Death. There were two different titles. Invasion of Earth, and has an ending that is heartbreaking, and I think has the strongest overall story out of all 4 seasons of that solo series. But Blood of the Daleks, I realize more and more, means much more to me because it's the first Big Finish audio drama I've ever listened to. To cut the story short, they were having a promotion where they were selling a solo series, you know, like for $5 a piece. But they offered the first part, this is a 2-parter, for free, and then that enticed me to get more, and here we are now, with a hard drive full of the stuff and a lot of money directly to Big Finish. Blood of the Daleks, while it's not the absolute best, I still think it is probably in the top 10 of that range. It is a very fun story. You are introduced to the new companion, and you're just going from there. This would have been technically my second story with the 8th Doctor as well, since I'm pretty sure I had seen the TV movie by then. And it was just great to see a character that was half, not entirely fully formed in the movie, completely figured out, fully fleshed, fully formed, more like it, not good words, and off on an adventure, fighting one of the most classic villains. That was the one thing I really liked, was seeing him, or as a matter of fact, hearing him fight the Daleks for the first time in my eyes. And it did a bunch of good things. It set up an interesting dynamic with the Daleks, because one thing I do find interesting is it does seem like the Daleks either are kind of in their normal mode of invading, or they're in stories where you try and reinvent them and make them different. And this does the latter and does it well. I'm not going to say exactly how, but it's another example of science gone mad, someone thinking he has a good goal behind him, and then bad things happen. And this is the introduction of Lucy Miller, who is, for the most part, the main companion of the entire 8th Doctor series. She's fun. If I had to give you a description, she's basically, take kind of, you know, the young person attitudes of Rose and the anger and accent of Donna Noble and put them together, and that's Lucy. She's very rarely annoying in general in the series, and I thought she was well done here. And I gotta admit, when I first listened to this story, I was really curious to see what her big secret was. That was the big story kind of thread throughout. It wasn't as amazing, since they tended to keep that whole plot thread very small to a point where they just pinned it in at the end. But this really intrigued me to listen to the 8th Doctor in audio, and just listen to audio dramas in general from Big Finish. And also, it's just a good, solid, fun story altogether. Well, that's about it for me. I hope anyone who watched, or I guess listened to this video, since it would seem fitting with what I was talking about, hope you enjoyed it. I've said this other places, but 50 Days of Who is getting kind of a relaunch of sorts. I want to basically keep doing that kind of thing, where I do it kind of MST3K, where I have my goofy friend dress up as a bad guy and send me something, and I talk about it and crack jokes and make sense out of it. And I want to do it ongoing, and I'm changing the title. I'm thinking Many Days of Who. I don't know yet, but I'm working on that. This was sort of just a kind of a something to make up for that, as the video, like the first video I've tried to make, and I've had some problems with my computer, and also I haven't been pleased with it. I felt like I could have done a much better job, and I'm trying to make it good. I don't want to just half-ass this and kind of be off the cuff, which is what I sort of did here. Though I did have notes, some notes. But, that's about it. I'm going to fix the computer now so you can see that Australian guy again. Love you, Shades. Thanks.
Hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you again next time.